And so I have my reference, I have my sketches. I didn't really spend a ton of time on this, obviously, just for the demo. So you should have a lot more sketches than this, but came up with a few different ideas. And now I'm ready to do my turnaround. And so when I do my turnaround, what I'll usually do is start with the front-facing character. So I'm gonna hide these guys for a second. I'm gonna lock this. I'm gonna make a new layer under the turnaround. And I'm gonna do a few layers here. I'm gonna do like some guides, which I'll draw in a second. I'm gonna do what I'll call like inks, and then maybe like a sketches in here, something like that. And so I'll start out with some basic shapes. I'll sketch out the basic shapes for the front-facing character, and then I'll use the front-facing character as a guide for the back and the side-facing characters. You could make your guides first, but I find that that's the easiest process to do. So for my sketches, I'm gonna grab my brush. Okay, and I'll use the blue, so that's good. And so I'm just gonna go with my little cat astronaut. So I'm gonna start with the head, and I'm gonna try to kind of get the head shape. And I'm just gonna use the sketch just to find the shape. So that'll be the shape of the head, and then I kind of had these like really small eyes in the middle, and then really big ears, maybe even bigger than that. And these are kind of the main shapes of my cat. And then I had the body was very small. So I'll do that kind of as the body, and then a couple feet, a couple arms. You know, you'll find the shapes in there. And then I had this kind of like big astronaut rocket pack in the back. And I might have to bring this in a little bit so it doesn't overwhelm the rest of the character. So maybe I'll put this here. Remember, we are going to do a walk cycle. So eventually I need some feet. Okay, so I might play around with this until I get the proportions I want, but this is a basic idea. So now I'll go to my inks, and I'll get a black color. And then this is like my first real turnaround, so I want this to actually, So I'm having the same graphics issue. Okay, so sorry, just a real quick thing. It looks like on some of these computers, the graphics drivers are not up to date, and so that's why sometimes you get something that looks like this, where I should be painting with black, but I think when it's layering, it's getting confused and it's doing some weird blocky stuff. So there's a pretty easy way to fix that. You can go to Edit, go down to Preferences, and go to Performance. And what I'm going to do is just turn off the graphics processor. So this may hurt the performance in some other areas, but I won't see that weird stuff anymore. So now I can draw my outline for my character. I'm just going to say okay. And this is the one that I'm probably going to export when I'm done. So I want to make sure this looks pretty good. I'm sort of at a weird angle, but that's good enough. And then I've got my eyes and my ears, and then the body down here. And if you want to connect, maybe I would like erase this part. You know, you can decide what you want here. And here's the legs. I'm kind of just doing a stick figure just to speed this up a little bit. But, you know, for this one, we want like actually good or good enough looking art. It doesn't have to be perfect. So we've got our arms and our legs, and then I've got my jetpack in the back, like this. And so this will be my front-facing character. I'm going kind of fast, but I would fill in this. And then so, you know, when you export it, you could just basically have your inks, or you can leave the sketches in. It doesn't totally matter for this part, but we want to get that down. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my back and my side view, and we'll get to play a little bit with what this looks like. But one thing that I want to do is I want to make sure the main elements are aligned. And so the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to click on Guides again. I'm going to get my blue brush again. And now if I hold Shift and drag, I'll make a straight line. So I'm going to go to each feature and then hold shift and drag across to create a guide where I can draw the rest of my turnaround. So let's start with the feet. So I'm going to hold shift and then I'm just going to draw this line across. So now I have this place where I can start the feet, because that's going to be important when we turn the character around. We want all the features to stay in the same place. You know, depending on what style of animation you're making, that may not always be the case, but in most cases, that's how we create consistency with the character. So now I'm going to make one at the bottom of my rocket pack. So I'm holding shift, I'm dragging, and I've got another guide. And then I just keep going up through each feature. You know, as long as you don't want like a million of these, but we just need a few so we can match up our features. Hey, Ralphie, can we turn it down a little bit? Ralphie. Hey, buddy. I might have to ban you from using your phone. I usually don't, but you might be the one. All right. So now we're going to do another guide at the bottom of the head. And then the eyes here. Oops. And then the top of the head here. The top of the ears. And then, you know, maybe this guide, the jetpack here. So we don't want like a million of these because it could start to get confusing, but we want to get our basics here. So now I'll go back to my sketches layer. So I want to divide these layers so I can turn them on and off. So I'll go back to my sketches layer and sketch in the back and the side. So I'll put the back over here. This, I guess, is mostly just going to be the backpack with the ears coming out. So I want the backpack to go up to here and down to here. And then it goes all the way down to this one, like that. And that's pretty much it. And then we have our feet. We have a little bit of our body and our feet poking out. Okay. So then we just have the ears poking out up here. So that's kind of fun. I don't know, maybe I'd add some details on the rocket pack, like maybe there's like a little tank of gas or something like that, and like a little thingy right here. I could figure that out. And then for the side view, this is where we have to kind of translate a little bit more. So I'm going to start with the head. So the head is kind of between these two lines. And from the side, you know, that's where we can start to play with this shape. Maybe it's a circle. Maybe it's pointed a little bit at the top or the bottom. We can kind of play with the shape here. And then we have the ears that go up to here. And we have the eyes right in the middle. And then we have our body down here. And again, we can play with this shape in this side here. And I'm sketching just so I can work this stuff out. Then I'm going to put the legs down here. Maybe I'll put one leg going back, one leg going forward like that. Arms like this. We're going to be doing the walk cycles next week. So that's when we will work out all this stuff. But then now we have to figure out the actual dimensionality of the rocket pack. Like maybe it's kind of like this. So now we're going to have to kind of figure out how this is connected. So I'd have to spend a little bit more time on this to actually figure out, like maybe I'd move the head forward and the body back like this. And then maybe the ears are more like that. Eventually I'll figure that out. And once I've got that, I'll go to my inks. And so I'll do the back first. Okay, and I'll just fill this in. And here's like our little rocket pack thing. That's kind of just like his butt and his legs down there. And then for this guy, I'll do the rocket pack. Oh, I forgot this part. And then, so I'll move the head forward a little bit. Put the ears up here. And oh, this has to come all the way down here. So let's actually pull this down here. And I didn't get the head quite down far enough. So the head is really like that. And then the body's like that. Okay, so now that we're starting to get the turnaround, we're starting to figure out the real dimensionality of the character. Okay, so now what I want to go over is just how we're going to submit this. So that part of that will not be in the video because we're going to have to go over to OpenLab. So I'll just do that in class. But we've already talked about how to submit stuff on OpenLab. I'm just going to kind of go through the steps here. But we're going to want to export all parts of the process. So we've got our reference. So we're going to export that first. Then, oops. Then our sketches. These are kind of sitting next to each other, but I'm just going to export them separately. And then our turnaround. So we'll start with the reference. I'm going to go to File and go to Export, Export As. And I'm just going to do JPEGs for these. These don't have to be beautiful. They're just kind of to show what we're working on. And I was working with a pretty large canvas, so I might make these a little bit smaller. I might do like, I don't know, 1200 for the width, because we just have to see it on the blog post. It doesn't have to be huge. So I'll click Export. I'm already in my, let's go to my documents, go to ANI 260, character design, and I'm just going to call this reference.jpg. Okay, so I've got my reference. Now I'm going to export my sketches. I'm going to go to Export As, and oh, it's already set the width, so that's good. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to click Export and go to Sketches. Okay, and then finally the turnaround. I'm going to go to Export As and Export Turnaround. Okay, so now we've got our images. We can go over to the OpenLab and create our post. I'm going to stop the video here because it's only going to show Photoshop. So, you know, I'll put a link to the post as a reference in the YouTube video, but we've already covered using the OpenLab in another video, so I'm not going to record that part.